This video is very kindly sponsored by the Strategist Den Games. You can visit their web store to pick up war games including Solitaire at www.strategistden.com.
Welcome to a video review of a solitaire design from White Dog Games called the Moog, Mogadishu 1993. The board state here that you see, I just prior to this video shot not nearly a full playthrough, but I got through 90% of the Radio Mogadishu scenario. This is a simple introductory scenario that I shot. But if you're more interested in the rules side of the game, go ahead and check that out. It'll give you good insight into how it plays, how combat, assault, the differences in units, how the Somali National Alliance forces are spawned. Very well done. We'll talk a little bit about that. But one of the things I want to comment about, White Dog Games is a small company. Okay, they do print on demand through Blue Panther. Michael Kennedy is the owner, and I'm telling you, they put out some fantastic solitaire games, and this is one of those games. This is a boxed version, as you can see. It's a small box, not necessarily large at all, but usually these games come with a nice full color map, paper map. This one comes with 88 counters, I believe. Yeah, there it is right there. 88 double-sided counters. It has a play aid sheet. So I'm going to show you both sheets. They have a quick reference sheet that's a play aid. They have an example of play that's full color. It's two-sided and takes you through an entire example of a full round. Very, very helpful. On this quick reference sheet, you can see it's the full sequence of play. Here's the setup and how combat works. And then on the other side, you've got your turn order and how different things work. Very cool little game, great production. The rule book is 16 pages, and about 4 of those pages are describing the 6 scenarios. And you can see the scenarios listed down there. Radio Mogadishu, Bloody Monday, Lig Legato Compound, Russian Embassy, Atto's Garage, Irene, which is the Black Hawk Down movie, and then you've got a hypothetical raid. So there are actually 7 scenarios. I said 6. There's also a bevy of optional rules that you can add to make the game easier, tougher, more realistic, more difficult, whatever you want to say. The game is designed by David Kershaw with... David Kershaw is the developer and playtester. The design is by Michael Kennedy, so I apologize, Michael. But a nice little game. This is a brand new release from 2023. I've really enjoyed this. I have played the Radio Mogadishu scenario, I believe, 3 or 4 times. This was my 4th play, I think. Once again, to get a really solid feel for how the system works. But then I played the Black Hawk Down, Irene scenario. What was the other one I played? I can't remember. But yeah, the Russian Embassy, because I wanted to do some more prisoner focused. But they're all different types. This one happens to be no prisoners involved, no political opponents. You just have a ranger chalk and a couple of battalions spread out in the city. They have to come together and then make it back to this UN base. So very cool little system. I've really enjoyed the plays of this game that I've done. Why do I enjoy it? Well, the first thing I would point out is the combat system. So I'm gonna show you an example of a combat. Let's go ahead and get an RPG unit, and let's go ahead and pick just a platoon, not one of the Ranger chalks or the Delta team. They're much better. So here I'm going to give you a look at the counters. So these are the front sides of these counters. They do flip over. They can get pinned. You're looking at a UN Forces platoon. You'll notice that it has the silhouette of two guys on it. It has two values on the counter. The red value, bottom left, is their infantry versus infantry combat value. The value on the right in the blue is their anti-tank, anti-vehicle, anti-armor rating. The platoon has a 2, while that SNA, Somali National Alliance is what SNA stands for, RPG team, has a 3. They're a little better with destroying trucks and vehicles. So those are the values that you can see. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn them over. I'll turn both of them over, and you can see I've got some black soot on my hands. Those are from the counters. The platoon, when they're pinned, and that's the first step towards taking a casualty and being destroyed, is to become pinned. So they went from a 4 infantry attack to a 3, and their armor went from a 2 down to a 1. The SNA RPG went from a 2-3 down to a 1-0. So when you've pinned them, those are not necessarily professional soldiers. They're more militia who have better weapons. They're not quite as good. So I wanted to show the values of those counters. In this game, there is no accounting for terrain, no modifiers for being in a building. These gray areas are building blocks, and then these lighter areas are roads. So there's no difference between the two units when they are in or out of buildings, whether you're firing into buildings or assaulting into buildings. But there are two different types of attack. This is called an assault, when you have one unit moving into another unit in a different area. That's an assault. This is the most bloody type of combat. If the losing side, by taking their combat value and their die roll, if it is less than one of the sides, that less side is going to die. If there's ever a tie, the Somalis always lose. So the Rangers and the Delta and the platoons are better, better soldiers, better trained, better equipment, that concept. So all you do is you take their combat values, a 4 for the platoon, a 2 for the SNA RPG. I've got 2 6-siders here. Each of them is going to roll 1d6. The red will be for the SNA. The black will be for the UN forces. We're going to roll these and then add that to their combat number and then compare. So the platoon rolled a 2 and the SNA forces rolled a 2 as well. So that makes the SNA a total of a 4 to a 6 for the platoon. So in this assault, the platoon wins. That SNA force is going to be destroyed. It will be thrown back into the draw cup. Every time an SNA force is killed, it is thrown back into the draw cup. And when you do a reinforcements round, they're going to come back out. So let's do a fire attack. I'm going to pull up another 2. This guy's going to fire at this guy. They're each going to roll a die, and they're going to add their combat value. So it's a countered roll. Okay, so that's what I was hoping would happen. All right, so the SNA unit here rolled a 5 plus their 2 is a 7. The platoon rolled a 1 plus their 4 is a 5. So a 7 beats a 5. The platoon is going to be flipped over and is going to be considered pinned. Now, let's say there was a sniper in the adjacent building. That sniper, if it hasn't taken its turn, can now attack. It's going to roll. If it rolls over, this unit's going to be destroyed. It's going to go into the UN casualty box, and then a casualty marker is going to be put out on the board. Now, we'll talk about priority of the SNA units. I wanted to show you the 2 different types of combat. There's also combat against vehicles. The SNA have their only armored vehicle is a technical. You can see it's a Jeep with a 50 caliber on the back, or a static cannon or anti-tank gun. But technicals, you can see, have an attack of 3. They have an armor value of 2, and their armor defense is a 1. So those can attack each other and fight each other. That doesn't happen all that much, but it does happen from time to time. So the importance of this casualty. So when this casualty is on the board, all of these SNA units on their next activation, this activation's done, they're done, they're going to move on to that undefended casualty. That would be their number one priority. That's the way that they're going to hurt the UN forces the most. That would then be removed out of the game, and that would end up being a negative. So you're not only going to get a negative because you got a casualty there as the UN player, you're also going to get a negative for that casualty ultimately being taken. So let's talk about the priority and what I like about the priority for the SNA unit. So let's show you this section of the Somali action phase. First off, units cannot move and attack with the exception of the technical. So the technical can move one space and still attack an adjacent space. Other units, if they move, unless it's for an assault, they cannot attack. They can't do a fire attack. Neither can the Rangers, the Delta, or the platoon. So if you move, unless it's moving into an area occupied by an enemy unit, you're not going to be able to attack. So the SNA units, here is their priority. Priority of actions are 1 through 6. Move on to an undefended Somali prisoner counter. Well, there's none of those here in play, but there, and of course I'm not gonna be able to find one. Well, I'm not sure where they went, but here's a casualty, and I think those are prisoners. So here's a prisoner. So sometimes the scenario is going to place out a prisoner unit. You're going to want to go get that, and then the SNA are going to try to take that away from you. Their next priority is to move on to an undefended casualty. That undefended casualty was that casualty unit just sitting there. Next, the technicals, RPGs, and snipers will try to perform fire combat. Next, the regulars and Somali militia will assault if they can, right? Adjacent UN infantry unit, provided there's not a vehicle in the same area. Then regulars and Somali militia will do fire combat at an adjacent UN vehicle. They won't assault UN vehicles, but they will do fire combat. Now, Somali regulars, here we go, and militia do not have good anti-armor values. But they will attempt it. So here you go. SNA has a 1 while the militia has a 0. So they are not good at attacking vehicles. That's why it's lower on their priority. Fire combat, I mentioned, move one area towards the closest UN combat unit or casualty or Somali prisoner counter. So when these units are on the board, they're going to be taking assault attacks, fire attacks, move into casualties or prisoners, and then ultimately moving towards the next UN unit. They want to continue attacking them, harassing them as they go back to their different objectives. So a very cool little priority system. Now, how do they come out on the board? All right, so it's a 2-step process. Based on your SNL intel, so this is Somali National Alliance intel. Based on that number, it can go up to 5. You are going to roll 3 dice. You're going to roll 1 die for each step of that intel during the reinforcements phase. So here I've got a red, a black, and a green. I'm going to roll that red's first, black second, and green is third. This doesn't really matter other than where you're the order in which you're going to put them down. These are supposed to be D3s, so you're going to take a 6-sider and you're going to divide each roll basically in half. A 1 and a 2 is going to become a 1. 3 and 4 is going to become a 2. A 5 and 6 will become a 3. So I'm going to roll, right? Well, I rolled really poorly. The red is a 1. The black is a 2. and the green is a 1. I've done this before where I've had like 7 or 8 units come out, and that really is going to make for a rough day for the UN. So once again, you're going to reach into this. So we're going to draw 1 for this. I put it there because I'm going to put it out. We're going to draw 2 for the next. And I'm going to show you what ends up happening, and then 1 for the third. All right, so these are the order that they're going to go out. Now you take 2d6. This is a d66. So the red is the tens number, 1 through 6. The black is the zeros number, 1 through 6. You're going to roll that, and then there's areas on the board that those coincide with. So let's go ahead and roll. All right, I rolled a 21. This does not happen very often, I assure you. So 21 is up here. It's this area right here. So I'm going to take this unit, and I'm going to place it directly in 21. So then for the next 2 units, we're going to roll again. All right, this is what I wanted to happen. I rolled a 56. So when you find 56, here's 55, 56 is right here. This is generally the center of the map. All missions are going to run through this area generally. So your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, those are going to be the numbers that come up more often. So here I rolled a 56. I've got these 2 units. I've got an SNA and an SNA. I'm going to go to 56. You put 1 unit in 56. Then if you have a second unit, you're going to go to 57. I'm trying to find where 57 is. There is no 57. Remember, you can't roll 57. So 66 is the next number that's higher. You're going to put it there. So you're going to place those units out there, and that's where they're going to take their actions from. Once again, every round, the reinforcement is going to be based on this SNL intel. You're going to roll 3, in this example, 3 D3s, and you're going to put that many units out. Once again, I could roll 3 6s, and I would put 9 total new units from the draw cup onto the board in the spaces that I roll. So you can see, very easy to get a lot of units on the board very quickly. If you watched my playthrough, you noticed that all the units kind of came in right here, or they came in over here on the left. The ones on the left are more out of it. They take so long to get over. They only have 1 movement value. So, you know, typically they're going to spawn in this area, and they're going to cause a lot of trouble. So that's the way they move, they attack, their priorities, how they're spawned. So the enemy is, you know, fairly mindless, but the way the design works and the way these areas are numbered, you get most of your reinforcements in this area. That is perfect for the way the game is designed. You're going to have to go through walls of these SNAs every single time. Ultimately, your goal is to keep your guys alive, get your prisoners back to your different bases, wherever they're assigned to go, and then get your unit back to those bases. You're going to end each scenario with a number value based on the number of losses you have, the number of units that didn't make it back. You know, it's very hard for you to decide, oh, I'm gonna leave this ranger here, or this platoon, and I'm gonna hold these guys off. Nah. The way the game works, you just want to get him the hell out of there and get back to the base. Obviously, you want to try to move as a group, but you don't want to leave guys stranded. Now, they can load onto these trucks, and the trucks are kind of unique. They can move 2 spots. If a guy is embarked on them when they move, they can move 2 spots, and then they can assault into a building, not the truck, but the guy inside the truck can assault into an adjacent building or street. And that makes that a very important and powerful attack weapon. You got to have a couple guys in trucks from time to time so that you can move in quickly, eradicate and eliminate enemies and threats, and that's important. One other comment I want to talk to you about, 2 other comments actually. So you've got these roadblock markers. You can see, and those are spread out over the map based on rolls using the same system as the unit placement. You're going to roll those dice, you're going to put them into a road adjacent to the numbers you rolled. When those roadblocks are there, UN forces cannot move through them. They have to be destroyed before you can move through them. So you got to watch out for those, because those can stop your mobile units, and you can be stuck ultimately out in the city. There's also convoy markers, relief convoy markers. At the end of every round, typically a scenario will tell you what you're going to do. You're going to roll a dice. If you roll appropriately, you're going to put a convoy marker out. These convoy markers are then going to stretch to wherever you want them. And if you have a casualty in an area adjacent to a connected convoy line, at the end of your turn, you can basically teleport those casualties back to the base and make it a lot easier on yourself getting your prisoners or your casualties out of the line of fire. So that's really all there is to it. This game, I think, is very simple, but I think what is great about the game lies in its simplicity. Its simplicity of action, so that you don't have to remember a lot of rules. It makes for a very entertaining and engaging experiment in trying to do these missions and accomplish them. The thing I haven't talked a lot about that I do want to mention now, and this part is even very simple, but the very first part of any setup in a scenario is you can choose your units. You spend a certain amount of points to buy units, and then that's the units you're going to deploy onto the board. So each scenario might say, oh, you have 45 points, and then you're going to go on here, and you're going to buy, well, I might buy a high heli Delta team because they're really good and they can move all over the board and be inserted by helicopter. I might buy a helicopter support because they're going to allow me to do some attacks on units and free up my guys. I might do night vision, the Nog. That's going to allow me better firing at night, because at night you get a -1 fire value. I might buy a couple Ranger Chalks, a platoon or two. Humvees are armored transport, but they also can attack. Trucks have no attack, but they have good capacity. They can hold up to 3 guys. And you're going to build your team based on what you believe the assets needed to accomplish your objective. I love that, because what that makes is every scenario is going to be different, period. Not only is it going to be different because you're rolling dice to place the different units that the enemy has, and you're also then drawing out replacement chits from a cup. But you can also throw in a lot of variability with those points that you can spend to build your attack force, your units, so that you can get the team assembled that you need to accomplish your mission. There's a lot of really cool aspects about this game. And I mentioned the simplicity. I really feel like the simplicity of this makes it strong. It's not overbearing. It's not overcomplicated. The map spaces are pretty clear. The road spaces are pretty clear. The non-adjacency, these X's mean this road is not adjacent to this road. You have to go here and then there. I think it's great graphic design. Is it beautiful? No, it's not. But I think it's playable, functional, and helps you play the game. And ultimately, that's what you want from this experience. Great little solo game. Each mission's going to play somewhere between 40 minutes to an hour and a half. I think my playthrough video is about 55 minutes. But once again, that was explaining a lot of things. I don't need to do that when I'm playing myself. But there's a lot of variability to this. There's a lot of ability for you to add optional rules, to add in those points and buy different units, create different teams. It's very simple. I think the best part of the game is the way the Somali National Alliance forces spawn on the board. Utterly fantastic, because it creates an incredible narrative. You might have guys that are kind of cleared this block out here, and all of a sudden the UN forces are in a really strong position. Well, hold up, because you're going to do a reinforcement roll, and you might roll a 54 or a 53 or a 63 or a 61 or a 62, and all of a sudden you might have 7 or 8 guys right up on you, and all of a sudden you're not in as good a position as you thought you were. I just think that's extremely thematic with this situation. I've watched Black Hawk Down. I think many of you have. I watched it, in fact, a couple of weeks ago once I started playing this again. But it was crazy. The skinnies, as they called them, just came out of nowhere. they came out of the buildings and the courtyards and the alleyways, and they assembled real quickly, and all of a sudden they'd have 50 guys out there with AK-47s. Some didn't have weapons, and that's reflected in the militia's poor values for combat. But it just creates a very interesting situation. I'm going to keep this one in my collection because it's a good, entertaining, and really energizing. I always love playing this solo game. Is it as deep as some of the other solo games that I played? No. But it definitely is one that I think has a place on your shelf if you like variability, if you like dice rolling, and if you like a challenge. I think this is exactly what you want on your table. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on the Moog. Frankly, I love this game. I give this high marks. I think anyone will enjoy it. You can buy the boxed version. I think it's $45. I think the baggy version is either $35 or $40. You order this, you'll have it in about 7 days, and you'll literally have it on your table playing it in 20 minutes. It's that simple. So if you're interested in these kind of things, more modern combat, kind of a weird situation with a lot of interesting rules and a good AI that works very well, I'm going to recommend to you the Moog, Mogadishu 1993. So thanks for watching. I've enjoyed playing this game, and I've enjoyed also bringing it to you. I do enjoy sharing these games once I find them. And if you don't know much about White Dog Games, please get on their website and check them out. They are a great little company. They're not cheap. You know, most of their games are $40 to $45, but they're small, right? They don't do large print runs. They do print on demand, but they give you games that are interesting and fun to play, and this one is no different. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Grant for the Player's Aid.